Hi everyone, here's what's bothering me today. There have been 4 really good news stories from this week, and I really just can't not talk about them because they're really, really good, and I don't really see enough appreciation for them, especially since some of these are now a couple days old, and then there's some real bombshells from today, which is fantastic, especially in the lead up to tomorrow, which is the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. So yeah, this is one of those extremely rare, go out buy a lottery ticket or something, one of those super rare moments where I'm not bothered by something today. So for starters, I saw the following story on September 26th, but it's actually from September 15th, which again makes the fact that more of us weren't talking about this kind of sus. Apparently, according to the Montreal Gazette, Quebec is looking at banning all fossil fuel extraction in the province. According to them, everything is on the table. And this is a very necessary step if we really want to start taking climate change seriously. We have to start leaving fossil fuels in the ground rather than continuing to explore and develop this terrible industry that is contributing to the death of the planet. So feel free to read the article. I will post the link and other links for all the other good news stories down below, but it's just really good to see that, again, one of the largest provinces in Canada has decided to take this very bold and necessary step towards a better, more sustainable climate future. And then 2 days after I saw this on September 26th, there was this story. Canada's second largest pension fund is pulling out of oil production. Canada's second largest pension fund is vowing to sell all of its investments in oil production by the end of next year, a significant move to pull private support from the sector in the name of action on climate change. This is huge news because so many pension funds, as a lot of leftists have pointed out in the past, often have their hands in really terrible industries, but those are the industries that are very profitable, meaning, oh, look, people's pensions are going to do really well. And it's really bold. Let's make no bones about this. This is a really bold move by, again, the second largest pension fund in the entire country to, again, divest away from fossil fuels and towards a more sustainable future. That's really good, positive news from Quebec. Sometimes Quebec gets it really wrong, and then there's times like this where they get it really right. But don't forget, folks, we still got a few more stories. I haven't talked about Fairy Creek a lot yet because it's actually a very complicated issue, and if anything, I've been trying to find a time to schedule to talk with an actual Indigenous person, hopefully from this area, to actually get their input on it. I don't really feel comfortable just talking about something of this complexity involving Indigenous land and issues as, a settler. But hopefully that'll be coming in the future. But in the meantime, there's really good news coming from the Fairy Creek blockade. The good news is that a judge ends injunction against Fairy Creek protests, citing substantial infringement of civil liberties. A British Columbia Supreme Court judge has denied an application to extend an injunction against old-growth logging blockades on southern Vancouver Island, writing that the actions of RCMP officers have put the court's reputation at risk. Oh, you love to see it. Here's the reasoning from the judge. Justice Douglas Thompson handed down his reasons for judgment on Tuesday, writing that it is not just and equitable in all the circumstances of the case to grant Teal Cedar Products Limited's request for an extended injunction order against protesters blocking the forestry company's access to its tenure in the Fairy Creek watershed area north of Port Renfrew. And while Thompson did acknowledge that allowing the injunction to expire could cause serious harm to the company's interests and to the rule of law, he also said the following. On the other hand, methods of enforcement of the court's order have led to serious and substantial infringement of civil liberties, including impairment of the freedom of the press to a marked degree. And he's not wrong, as many people have been screaming about this for months. The actions of the RCMP at Fairy Creek in terms of their abuse towards protesters, their infringement on civil liberties, the suppression of the press, and also, in some cases, violently doing so, has absolutely painted the RCMP and the company that they're basically being hired goons for to be painted in a very negative light. Now, again, you could also, and very rightly, look at this in the sense of this is just the court really covering its ass because, oh, if we keep letting this go on and turning a blind eye, people aren't going to respect this court, and that's a problem for justice in general, so we should probably do the right thing here. So in that sense, it's like, it's a good thing, but not exactly for entirely good reasons. But hey, in this hellscape, I will take a win where I can get one, you feel me? But yeah, like I said, hopefully gonna do a real dive into Fairy Creek at some point in the future. But this is still a welcome development where the courts have basically said, yeah, no, cops bad. Like, they've basically said, hey, if the cops could stop negatively impacting our reputation, that'd be great. Oh my God, that's how bad policing has gotten. But then the final and most excellent of the stories, and coming just the day before the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, is this. Breaking news. Federal court dismisses both federal government appeals, the tribunal's compensation decision and decision for First Nations kids off reserve get help under Jordan's principles stand. Huge win for Indigenous people. Take the L, Trudeau and the Liberals, for continuing to try and fight kids in court. According to this article I was able to find on netnewsledger.com, Canada's federal court has dismissed a judicial review into a landmark human rights tribunal compensation order for First Nations children. Justice Paul Favell said the Attorney General of Canada had not succeeded in establishing that the compensation decision is unreasonable. This decision has the federal government now responsible for billions of dollars in compensation in the cases in the child welfare system. I've talked about this before in several videos. I can't even remember which ones and how long ago, but to broadly sum up once more, the federal government of Justin Trudeau and the previous government of Stephen Harper has long been fighting Indigenous kids in court because the Indigenous kids, again, to broadly sum up and oversimplify decades of abuse, basically said, hey, the federal government actually owes us for chronic underfunding of education and terrible actions within the child welfare system and a few other departments and things like that. Again, really oversimplifying here. The government, whether it was conservative or liberal, said, yeah, no, we really don't like paying natives even more money, so we're going to fight you in court. And so all these court battles just kept going back and forth about who was responsible. Was the federal government responsible or not? And the main argument that the federal government was making was that the demand of compensation was unreasonable. So it wasn't even necessarily that they admitted, look, we didn't do anything wrong. It was, okay, look, we did some wrong, but really billions of dollars? How about just millions of dollars? Come on. And so this landmark ruling the day before the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation is just mwah. Now, unfortunately, just watch Justin Trudeau actually say he's going to appeal this decision tomorrow. But as it stands, a federal court has said, nope, you know what? The feds can't really prove their case. Pay up billions of dollars. So yeah, that really good news. And there we have it. 4 really objectively great news stories from Canada. And one of them was apparently from September 15th, and I don't remember seeing anything about it. So yeah, sometimes this can be a very doomer channel, which once again, thank you all for being here, well and truly. But I think we could all really use some good news, and these were just several stories, 2 of which came to me today. The other 2 came just a few days ago. This is really good news. What a great way to more or less end September on, with some positive developments for climate action, as well as cops getting a solid slap on the wrist. And of course, finally, hopefully, fingers crossed, some real forward momentum on reconciliation with Indigenous people. I am in such a good mood now, having read all these different news stories, but it's kind of weird because why weren't we hearing more of this good news? I thought the media was kind of also supposed to do that, right? Give us the good with the bad, and yet it seems like not a lot of these stories are getting traction, and that's what's bothering me today.